Okay, there's this story, and it takes place in the suburbs of Tokyo on a train, and the train's moving. It's full of, old women and children, and it's just a normal day. Everybody's, on the way to work, on the way home, etc. And the train pulls in to a train station, and there's this drunk. And this drunk steps onto the train, and he's swaggering, he's swaying, and he's swearing, cursing. On the same train, standing and watching this guy walk on, is an Aikido expert. Japanese Aikido expert, been training for about the last 5 years, every single day, knows how to tackle, knows how to grapple, knows how to strike. He knows it all. And he's watching this guy, this drunk, and he swings for this woman, and she's holding a baby, and he just misses her, and she falls back, and as she falls back onto this old couple, they start to retreat towards the back of the car, and as they run off, he swings and he tries to kick them. And the Aikido expert is standing there, and his fists clenched, and he's thinking about all what his teacher used to say to him, that Aikido is the art of reconciliation. Whoever has the mind to fight has broken the connection with the universe. If you try to dominate people, you're already defeated. We study how to resolve conflict, not how to start it. And those words rang in his mind. And then he said to himself, this is it. I can't stand it no more. People are in danger, and if I don't do something, someone's going to get hurt. So he stands up, and as he stands up, Japanese drunk man turns to him and says something to him like, what do you think you're going to do? The Aikido expert clenched his fist and thought in his mind, I'm going to take this guy apart. He wanted to instigate it, so he blew him a kiss. The drunk ran at him, just about to swing, when they heard a shout from the back, hey! The drunk stopped, looked towards the back. He saw an old Japanese man sitting at the back of the carriage on his own, and he said, come here and talk to me. And the big man followed as if on a string. As he was moving, the Aikido expert followed him gently, just in case if he did anything to the old man, he was going to take him apart. And the old man continued to beam at the labourer, smiling gently. And he said to him, what have you been drinking? And he says, the labourer said, sake. And the old man said, sake is wonderful. Me and my wife, used to drink sake in the back of our garden. On a night, my wife, she's 76. We used to take the bottle of sake out into the garden and sit on our little wonderful bench and watch the sun go down. And we had a persimmon tree. And my grandfather planted that persimmon tree. And the ice storms come in the winter, but it still survives it. And the labourer looked at this man with a twinkle in his eyes, and the drunk's face started to soften, and he slowly unclenched his fist and said, yeah, I love persimmons too. His voice trailed off saying. And the old man said, yes, and I'm sure you have a wonderful wife too. And the drunk said, no, my wife died very gently. He said, I don't have no wife no more. I've got no home, no job. I'm ashamed of myself. Tears rolled down his face. The Aikido expert, standing back, suddenly felt dirtier than this drunk was. And as the train arrived at the stop and the Aikido expert was getting off, he looked back, and the drunk was lying with his head on the lap of the old man, with the old man stroking him. As the train pulled away, the Aikido expert sat down on a bench, and what he had tried to do with muscle had been accomplished with kind words. He had just seen Aikido tried in combat, and the essence of love. Some of the worst people, some of the people that the world considers evil, are some of the most traumatized people. Trauma, completely misunderstood and unrecognized for what it should be and what it creates. Each person starting off pure and innocent, until programming and trauma takes place. All types of trauma, and how one handles that trauma is different amongst each person, and there is no right or wrong way. Some people, depending on them, take it bad. Some people take it good. I've often thought to myself, what in a person causes them to look at trauma in a way that helps them, turns them into a better person, versus the person that undergoes trauma and it destroys them. Now, we could talk about an example of somebody being abused as a young child, and that person growing up to then help other abused people taking that path, versus somebody that then goes out and abuses other people themselves rather than helping, because then themselves have been hurt. A lot of the crimes that we see in society are due to trauma, are due to hurt and pain. Now, yes, evil has to come from somewhere, but the majority of the public are either unaware, naive. Like children, we must look at them as this world has taught them to be selfish, to live for themselves and to chase material, to chase riches of the world instead of treating each other with respect and dignity, looking at each other's pain and appreciating that, trying to help that, rather than push the wound even deeper or misunderstanding that pain. And when people go through all types of experiences, no matter what type of experience or what age they're at, that trauma can affect them in one of two ways. And most people bury that trauma deep down, turning them almost cold, but not their fault, not on purpose. Cold and numb, pain, sad, and yes, smiles. Masks may overshadow that sadness, they try, but the pain still lies, as it's hidden, never healed, never accepted. And until we can see some of these people as the world as traumatized and hurt, how can we help them? By sending more hate their way is only going to push them further down that rabbit hole. Compassion is needed to fight the hate of the world. You know, I myself work with ex-offenders, all types, high risk, people that have abused children, murderers, armed robbers, all types of criminal. I help rehabilitate them and get them back into society, often working with them for 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, helping them set up income, basic needs covered, doctors, dentists, until pushing them onto their own accommodation, their own type of job or training. And these people mostly are great people. Underneath the crying, underneath the trauma, they're just human, but they are not looked upon that way in society. They are looked down upon for one mistake. Many of these people were drunk or intoxicated at the time. It's not an excuse, and it shouldn't be accepted. But at the same time, it should be understood that a lot of the misdoings in this world are done by traumatized people. And yes, the hierarchy above that is a little different. But the average person on the street isn't your enemy. They're your brother and sister, but forgot. And just like in days that have passed when neighbours used to help each other and people used to speak to each other on the street, it was a little bit more of a pleasant world. That has now changed. The communities have now changed. My nan used to say that it's down to the shutting of the pubs, and not only that, the stopping of smoking. The community stopped coming together, stopped supporting each other. They tightened up things to make us turn on each other and have to support your own family and worry about yourself. At the same time, there's no reason why we can't show compassion to fellow man. I'll always support the people down below. The people down below are just trying to get on. The people up above, yeah, some have been traumatized, but there is something much higher than trauma that causes trauma, where trauma would have came from, that some people call evil. And with people that I work with, you could argue the nature versus nurture, and people don't understand, and I completely accept that. But at the end of the day, it's neither nature nor nurture. It's a combination. And who's to say how people should react to a traumatic experience? Some of us come out strong on the side of light, while others turn down the side of darkness. And why is that? It made me think of the scenario of the caterpillar. The caterpillar sometimes turning into the butterfly, but mostly turning into the moth. And I found it very interesting And there's no real reason, although down to the species of caterpillar, but there's no reason why a caterpillar should turn into a butterfly or should turn into a moth. Although there are a higher majority species of moth, meaning that there are a higher chance of a caterpillar becoming a moth, leaving a small percentage to turn into butterfly. And it kind of reminded me of the type of ratio that we're talking about in terms of light v dark. So we consider ourselves as like caterpillars. With some of us taking that experience, that next stage, that traumatic experience one way, and the others taking it the other way. With butterflies mostly living in the light, having beautiful wings, and moths mostly associated with dark and not being so pretty, could easily be associated with angels and demons. And yes, the DNA, the coding is there, the divine code which runs through everything. But essentially, that choice, some people may call free will or divine intervention. Ultimately, it is something in somebody that changes them. And most of the criminals that I work with go inside prison and come back out, go inside, come back out, until they reach a certain level of understanding or experience where something changes. Sometimes it's a traumatic experience, like a relative dies and it shocks them, wakes them up. I do work with people with one-off crimes, and this is the variety you get, but even one-off crimes can really be considered bad crimes. If it was a murder, a one-off crime is just as bad as a multiple thief. I work with drug addicts and people with alcohol, and I see the reasons they do it and the stories they tell. Alcohol and substances covers up pain, gives them a feeling and a sensation to forget. And no one sees that. All they see is the heroin addict, the crack addict, or the alcoholic. But there's more to it than that. And again, it's not right that they're doing these things, but we need to show a little bit more compassion to these people, these so-called evil and bad people of the world. Because down here where we are, there are very little evil people. It is mostly traumatized people. And for anyone out there with trauma, which is mostly all of us, that hasn't found the way to persevere through it just yet, you are light and you will. Everybody goes through the dark stage and not understanding, not accepting. And you have to find that journey and go within and heal. And it's scary, but when you do, you become fearless. The trauma I love, and I send light to those that have overcome. I send the same. I see us all as equals, regardless of position in the world. We are one. And my variation of one is different to the world government's one. Everything has been twisted and inverted. There is always a good and a bad. The one I'm talking about is the one, the beautiful one, not one to control and manipulate. The one. Love and peace to all. Let's help. We can help heal the peoples of the world, rather than pushing them down into a further rabbit hole of pain. Understanding trauma is key. Multiple types of trauma, general trauma, program trauma, governmental trauma. Most things we see give us trauma.
Kintsugi is the Japanese art of putting broken pieces of pottery back together with gold. Built on the idea that embracing flaws and imperfections, you can create an even stronger, more beautiful piece of art. Many of us break a bowl or vase and think, garbage. But the Japanese art encourages us to see the potential for beauty in reconstructing the broken pieces. Essentially, this is embracing our damage, our brokenness, rather than hiding it or covering it. An example of this would be a victim of a crime, even the most horrible crimes, let's say rape, and that brokenness that arrived via trauma is dealt with in a way that strengthens that person in a way that they weren't before. The scars or damage left by the event are actually stronger than before, replaced by something purer and stronger, never really being able to break in the same place again. A question I ask, If the vase or bowl kept being smashed or fixed, eventually would the vase or bowl be made completely out of gold? Maybe. Meaning the more we break, the more we crack. As long as we handle that in the right way, we strengthen. We essentially transmute into something purer. Using this as a metaphor for healing ourselves teaches us an important lesson. Sometimes in the process of repairing things that have been broken, we actually create something more unique, beautiful and resilient. Essentially, we won't ever reach our full potential unless we go through the tough times. Referring back to the moth and the butterfly, each person reacts differently to trauma. Those that go through pressure and trauma and handle it well may be seen as this process. They are in fact stronger than they were before because of going through this trauma. Similar to the saying, pressure can turn coal into a diamond. We need to admire imperfections, embrace the good and the bad. Isn't it beautiful when someone goes through the most difficult time and still manages somehow to succeed? Doesn't that show strength? This applies to your own body, your mind and your heart. You are this. But so is everyone else. This not only applies to us, but the world. Use compassion when looking out. The most broken people normally end up the strongest warriors. And if they aren't yet, maybe it's because you will make that change. Your actions or choice of words towards that person be the difference.
This ladder stayed in the house yesterday. This ladder stayed outside. Right off the bat, this ladder looks better than this ladder. That's how we view people. We don't take into consideration that this poor bastard stayed outside all night in the cold and the rain and all the other shit. And sometimes all you need in life is a little bit of help. So y'all don't be too quick to judge. We all go through shit. Be there for somebody sometimes. They may need you, and by God, you may need them. Y'all be cool, stay classy. I love you.
How did you do it?
You know, you just keep your elbows up and keep the shoulders loose.
Not that. How did you find peace? I took away your parents. Everything. I scarred you for life.
See, that's the thing, Shen. Scars heal.
No, they don't. Wounds heal.
Oh yeah, what do scars do? They fade, I guess?
I don't care what scars do.
You should, Shen. You gotta let go of that stuff from the past, because it just doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what you choose to be now.
You're right.
You are too concerned with what was and what will be. There's a saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
Either we heal as a team, or we're gonna crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. Now, I can't do it for you. I'm too old. I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I mean, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I pissed away all my money, believe it or not. I chased off anyone who's ever loved me. And lately, I can't even stand the face I see in the mirror. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Hell yeah.
They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. The 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it.
You to start fighting.
Go out there and do what we came to do. It's your time, champ. It's your time to shine.
Let go of the fear. You hear me? Let go of the guilt. Let go of it, dog. Let go of whatever was and walk into what is.
Now,
Go out there and be ferocious.
what are you gonna do?